Shane Prafke, SHANUPRAEFKE, I play organ piano.
Claire Liparulo, CLAIRELIPARULO. And I sing, I play guitar, and also sometimes kabasa and virus. And tambourine.
Various percussion.
Yeah.
I'm John Schiller, JohnSchiller. I play bass on the Freecoasters.
And he drives the band.
And I drive the band. I deserve credit for
Keith Cute, KEITHCUTE, and I play guitar.
And I am Mark Davis, MARCDAVIS, and I play drums.
This working guy has never had any light on all night. Maybe give him some light now. Okay.
All right, so it says on your Facebook that you guys are all from Fort Myers, or you're based in Fort Myers, and if you're not from Fort Myers, where are you guys from?
More or less are now. We worked for a while. People from all over for a little while.
I think 239 covers it.
Yeah, so
Fort Myers, Cape Coral.
Okay. And how did the band form?
Our original drummer and myself, we had a band maybe 12 years ago, and that band kind of fell apart, like in dramatic fashion, and took about 2 years off, and then spent 4 years trying to put together a band real similar to that one. It took 4 years to find people. I ended up back with that original drummer. His name is Scott Martin, and
You found a couple of.
yeah. Once I had like a whole rhythm section, I found a keyboard player. I got back with Scotty playing drums. Found a lead guitar player, and we started writing some what we thought would eventually be songs, but they weren't. They're not songs. They're frameworks for songs. And we started looking for a singer, and we went to what was it, Music Walk? Is that it?
There was an event at there was Music Walk in downtown Fort Myers, and then I was asked to play that night by Brian Franklin, who does this art and poetry networking event, and he asked me to come out as a performer for Music Walk and do like 2 songs. And they happened to be in there when I did the 2 songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny because Scott and I, a million years ago, lived in a house together, and we had friends in the neighborhood, like a bunch of kind of punk rock houses, people living in, kind of squalor conditions. And we'd have parties and stuff like that, and we remembered Claire had showed up a couple of times at some of those parties with her 2 roommates. One of her roommates,
Megan
ended up married to Scott. So we see her, and it's like, my wife's college roommate. Why didn't I think of her? She sings great. We should ask her. We did.
So obviously this is not the original lineup, so I'm assuming you guys are more of the founding members, and then when did the rest of you guys kind of?
Well, we've been playing with Mark for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started filling in for them about a year or 2 ago. They had a drummer at the time who was living in Sarasota, who is a professional musician. That's all he does. So he would get double booked sometimes with acts that he had in Sarasota, where not driving an hour and a half and making more money in Sarasota made sense for him. And it was kind of slim pickings around here for drummers that know the style, know how to play reggae, without having to go through and make a set list saying this is how you do it and show them the ins and outs. I was in a reggae band, and like it's kind of a similar like ska and reggae and soul band in the late 90s, early 2000s. I played trombone in, but I had been listening to like ska and reggae and stuff since back then. And John came to me and said, look, if you ever want to play with us and get paid and have some fun, and I said sure. And so I came in, I think like one practice, and started playing. And I think we had like 2 or 3 shows that weekend or something like that. And I was pretty much off to the races, and I played a bunch of shows with them. And then it kind of cooled off a bit and played a bunch more with them. And then eventually it just got to the point where their drummer was going to start playing full-time in Sarasota. And John basically said, look, if you want the gig, it's yours. And I was pretty eager to jump on board.
I don't remember you guys.
About the same time we came in about 2 or 3 months ago, I would say.
Okay. Alright, so you haven't been with the band very long at all. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Keith and Shane.
I think I can take somewhat credit for both of them. After I was in, I was like kind of just mentioning people I knew. Rick, the keyboardist who was around for a while, he ended up leaving. He also lived in Englewood, so far away.
Right, it was there, so.
Yeah, so you know, it's just a long drive, difficult for him. I know Shane through a mutual friend, a mutual band member actually, from another band that we're both in. You know, like the family tree of, you know, Lee County bands. And I'd seen him posting videos all the time playing organ. So I said to John, I go, well, I know the dude's got an organ and he plays it. And
It's good.
That was the
I don't want to be misquoted. I mean that
He's heard of
I can
our
work
organ.
Did you fog a mirror?
And Keith, I played in another band with, and Keith went to school for guitar. Like, you know, he plays bass in another band I'm in. And we were at a wedding. We were at my friend Lee and Kyle Ann's, our friend, Lee and Kyle Ann, and I was there, and Claire was there. And I was talking to Keith, and I kind of just like put the pieces together. And I was like, wait a minute.
I was like walking to the bathroom, which is like near where Keith and his wife were sitting, or girlfriend, excuse me. And you like grabbed me and you're like, I just had an idea. I just had an idea. I'm like, I really have to pee though. He's like, I just had an idea. And then like he drags me over and meets them, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. They were super nice. And
It was like trying to hook your friends up, you know? Like 30 minutes later, I was like looking over with my drink, I'm like, they're still talking. This is good. 45 minutes later, I just see them both like nodding, and I'm like, you know, I mean, they're, you know, everyone in the band is so agreeable and pretty laid back, so it's been working out really well so far.
Alright. So, I know you guys listed a bunch of influences on your Facebook page. Why reggae, soul, and ska, and who are the biggest influences of those?
So this guy actually, he's only been in the band with us for, only like 2 years. Only officially been the guy, the full-time drummer for like 8-9 months.
Something like that.
But we go back like 12 years. This is the guy who got me into like ska and reggae music when I was like 15. The band he was talking about, I used to go to their shows and I didn't even know him. He was a couple of years older than me, but I'd go to their shows. And I eventually became friends with him. We turned around to a band called the Slackers, which are one of our big influences, at least one of my big influences. But I would listen to a lot of you know, ska and reggae bands in like the different eras of Jamaican music. I could kind of like make connections in my mind with like American soul music. Like, okay, so like ska kind of has like a doo-wop into like the girl groups, you know, like the Wall of Sound kind of feel, but like a Jamaican version of it. And then like rocksteady definitely feels like early Motown, and then reggae feels like that, like kind of like funkier era of Motown. And then, you know, when you get into like dub reggae, man, that was like analogous to like the ghetto soul, like Curtis Mayfield, and like psychedelic soul, Late Temptations, and like I could hear those like connections in my mind. And I guess I'm not like a musicologist or whatever, but it really kind of is that way, that like music was moving here and they being influenced by there, and like Jamaica was kind of responding. But a lot of the bands that I listened to were kind of doing like time capsule music, like trying to be like, we want to sound like we're in that place in that time. And like I had this idea going back 10, 12 years that like, what if it was like a combination of those? Like, what if it still felt like an American band, you know, and like the way I tried to like the elevator pitch to try to get people to join the band was always like, all right, Aretha Franklin or Fontella Bass goes to Jamaica on vacation and makes a record. All she can find are reggae cats, you know what I mean? What does that record sound like? I want the band to be that. Or vice versa, you know. Yeah, vice versa. Imagine, say Bob Marley, just to have a point of reference. Bob Marley's in Memphis and makes a record with, the Stax Players, or down in Muscle Shoals with the Swampers. Like, what does that band sound like? I want to be that band. You know? So that was kind of the idea.
Alright.
Yeah.
So you have a previous album called Show Up, is that correct? And you're currently recording another album. Where you're recording it at, and how do you feel like what is the difference between your last album and now this like kind of metamorphosis in a new one? Like how different is it?
Night and day.
Yeah.
The new record is done.
Alright.
It's in the can, as they say, which is musician parlance for we have no money. It's sitting there, it's waiting. We could put it out on CD if we wanted to, but we really wanna have like a simultaneous vinyl and CD release.
Okay.
We did like kind of a pre-order while we're in the studio, so that was kind of complicated. We got caught going on tour without any copies of the first record. Like we actually sold all 1,000 of our first run, which I never thought would happen. So we had maybe $400 in pre-orders for the new record that we had to spend on the old record.
Yeah.
So that kind of slowed us down. So
So we
now
were touring to California and back, so
we
it's gonna
needed
be
to have
like a
something to sell.
2.5 week thing, and you can't go out there and not be making money on merch, because there's days, like when you're making money on a door deal or something, there's days where you just don't make anything except for what you sell in your merch, so you have to have it.
We made $23 in San Diego.
Even less than
And we
that.
had to pay $10 to park. So.
That was $14 in San Diego.
So where did you record the new album
With Caleb Neff at
Juniper.
Recording.
Yeah.
at? And where is that at?
That's
In
in
April.
April.
Oh, okay. Alright, awesome.
And the sound difference between the first album and the second album is vast.
Alright.
So Shane and Keith and I were in the band
Yeah.
when that album was recorded. Their old drummer Mike Fender and their old keyboard player Rick Lombano were in the band at the time, and they had kind of like a grouping of guitarists that played. Their old guitarist Saul, and the guy who produced the album, Jesse Wagner from a band called the Agrolites, who came down. He came here from California and produced the album also. He played on it. Caleb played on it. It was kind of like a mixture of a bunch of you. I think even John played some guitar on it.
I played sitar. I'm accredited electric guitar.
I played bongos. I played like a small
You have like a half-size conga.
yeah, like little congas for like one part. But from the outside looking in, the songwriting, the sound, it's just a lot more.
Complex.
Yeah, it's a lot more complex, and it's a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Grown up. You know what I mean? It's definitely come around
Alright.
big time.
You guys got any favorite release on the album? Like a particular one that you're really proud of?
Look what we've done in Shepherd Microphones.
And what is it about those that you're...
One of my favorites is probably a dark horse on the record. It's not going to be probably anyone else's favorite, but Watch It Burn
Oh, yeah.
That sounds great.
and Power.
Power's great.
Look what
One
we've done and
section.
shook. So Watch It Burn is a very slow burning song, and it's one that you kind of have to sit down and pay attention to enjoy. It's not like you're gonna put it on in the background and really appreciate it for everything, all of the feeling and soul that I feel like we put into that. I know I put into it. Look What You've Done is just a beautifully rich and complex piece that's just really beautiful. I came back into the studio because I had to play a gig one night, and that song, Look What You've Done, was already beautiful, and it was already going to be one of my favorites on the record. And I came in, and they were like, you might hate this, but we did some Beach Boys shit on the vocal harmonies, and I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you messed with it? And then I just stood there, and they played it for me through the studio speakers, and they're like, my face, I wasn't like reacting, I was just like staring, and they're like, she hates it. She doesn't like it at all.
4 hours.
Oh my god, oh no.
What a waste of money.
And I was like, I need to hear it again. But it was really beautiful, and it really added, I don't want to, I feel like it sounds pretentious to say elegance, but I feel like it added some sophistication to the song that we didn't hear before we were in there. Howard, over you.
No, I was just gonna say, what I was gonna say along the lines of the sophistication, like you're saying, the difference between the first record and the second record is we learned how to finesse the song. You know,
Mhm.
like we didn't, with the first record, we didn't really know how to finesse the tune like into place, you know, and we just kind of powered through some stuff. And I feel like on the new record, we learned a little bit of how to. Well, it doesn't have to be real different, you know. Like we can make it change in a slight way and like make it fit and do exactly what we want it to do.
As far as the songwriting.
Yeah, as far as songwriting goes, yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like the musical styles, the first album is like 8-bit, the second album is like 128-bit. There's so many more musical styles pulled from, you know, it feels like it's a lot more nuanced as far as like the styles that they pulled from, you know. It's a much more
And I think,
adult album.
yeah, and I think you can hear on the new album our soul influences or our influences that go beyond reggae music,
Yeah.
that we infuse the sound with. Like there's one song where we cited like what's the one that you think I sound like maybe Staples?
Oh, When I Go.
When I Go. So there's Velvet Underground,
Yeah.
which was unanticipated. That's
Yeah.
not a soul band.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was maybe Staples that we felt that sounded like. There's the Temptations that we kind of like nodded at a part. And,
Yeah. There's
you know.
was it My Girl? There's a little.
Yeah, there was a part that was inspired by My Girl. It's very small, but it's just a very like part for just a second. And it's like there were pieces of that. There's probably seven total
Yeah. Well,
influences in that one song.
yeah.
We're gonna change batteries real fast. In a few seconds.
You know Shane's a server or bartender because I just glanced over at my water and he's just like,
Nicely done. Anticipation.
Read the cues.
what I love about drinking out of a water bottle with lipstick on is that when you drink out of it 3 or 4 more times, you start to get a smile on top of your Thank you.
Rolling. Alright, awesome. So you guys play locally. Where do you guys play locally and how often and like what's your favorite place to play?
Ooh, we could get ourselves.
We don't really have a favorite.
They're all wonderful.
They're all wonderful.
We play locally, depending on if you know are kind of in Cape Coral, right? We play at Big Blue,
Alright.
Back Streets.
Nice Guys when there's like a touring band coming through, or
We played at Ollie's before, so you know we play some shows where we're playing 45-minute local shows, and then we play some shows where we're playing 3 or 4 hour shows like tonight, where we're like kind of not just like playing a 3 or 4 bands gig, but we're playing like the night's entertainment. Then we play Celtic Ray and TT's Tiki in Punta Gorda.
Fort Myers Brewing,
Yeah, Fort Myers Brewing. We played at
Monkey Bell.
Point of Bell.
You saw us.
Beach Records, we played there, another local place where we played shows. Marty at Beach Records has been endlessly helpful to us.
He's the best.
Yeah, we've rehearsed there for years. Yeah, he's just been a huge support in every way. Where else? Loads of places. We played at, there's some places we have played at that we don't anymore, but we may again. You know, Twisted Tongue, right? Or no, not Twisted Tongue, but Cork Soakers. They're, you know, any place that will allow us.
Naples Botanic Garden.
Yeah, Naples Botanic Garden, we've been playing there more recently, and that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, Artist Naples.
Yeah, that was a fun gig.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Sold out.
Yeah, I wish they'd have us back. Wish that stood for something. My girlfriend used to work at Artist Naples and worked at the ticket window, and we got booked to do their live and local there, and apparently sold out the first show, and then like half of the second show. So she asked me when I got home how did it go. I'm like, good. We sold out the first show. She's like, sold out the first show. I'm like, yeah. Well, they had to push me to the second show. She's like, it's never sold out. Guess we're awesome. But
Yeah.
can't get back in there though. I emailed them.
Tell me a little bit about your summer tour.
Yeah, we did a couple of them. We did one early summer up the East Coast and one late summer to the West Coast, right?
We did, well,
We
if you
did
count,
three.
we did, well, so we did 2 tours, well, 3 tours if you count the one we did in Mephistopheles.
Did we go out West twice last year?
Yeah, but in November,
Oh, so that's not summer.
not technically, no. So the first summer tour we did was, it was the first time we went west to, like, through Texas, Colorado, California, Arizona, New Mexico, basically the south and southwest states, and then we traveled back home from there. That was really cool because we'd gone up the east coast of the U.S. multiple times. We played a festival called Supernova Stop Festival. And we had done that route maybe 3 times before we ever went west, and it was just like it opened up a whole new world for us. Like Texas was fantastic to us, and it wouldn't have been a place we would have traditionally thought would be like, oh, reggae's really hot here, or ska's really great in this area, but it was like, those shows were bumping.
Yeah.
They were fun.
In a reggae band, they tell you to stick to the water. You know, like if you stay near coasts, you can find gigs, you can find work, you can find people like reggae music. But we went through Texas, you know, even West Texas,
Arizona.
It was like why have we been sticking to the East Coast this whole time? You know? It was
We made more money, and we like
yeah.
had more people at the shows. It was awesome. People were singing our songs.
That's cool.
We had requests and
That were not related to us.
Pueblo. People came to Pueblo and were requesting songs. And like
Yeah, they
we had
did.
a fill-in guitar player who we didn't prepare him on everything off the last record, and we felt really bad because they wanted to hear 2 songs that.
Yeah, they wanted to meet members of the band.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Yeah.
cool.
That was really cool.
So do you have any good stories from the road?
I always go straight to the.
You want to pick 10 bucks?
We're not going to tell anyone to make 10 bucks. I always go straight to Yuma. Yuma was awesome. We were supposed to be, this most recent tour in November, we were supposed to play a gig in Albuquerque. And at the very last minute, some miscommunication, the gig wasn't happening. We found out with like 2 days before we hit the road, and that was going to be day 4 or something. So it was like 6 days out from the gig, but only 2 days before we left town. And really, you can do a little bit from your phone and whatnot, but like once you're on the road, it's go, 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 and there's no setting things up on the road. So, went in all the Facebook groups and, posting, hey, we're desperate, something
Like
fell through.
the touring ska band.
Yeah, all kinds of touring band groups, but yeah, there's just indie rock groups, there's Southwest of the U.S. groups, there's just all kinds of groups. I joined them all and started spamming them all. And the band I mentioned earlier, the Slackers, their sax player, to whom I've never spoken, messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, I saw your post in one of the ska groups that you guys are hard up for a gig. Hit up my friend Kooks in Yuma. He'll set you up. So I hit up Kooks in Yuma. His name was Jose Ruiz. And I'm like, hey, Dave Hilliard sent me. He said you might be able to help us out in Yuma. He's like, yeah, what do you got? I'm like, about 4 days from now. He's like, okay, well, we're really waiting till the last minute, aren't we? And like, it's a long story. He's like, yeah, well, I can find something. So he set us up. We ended up having to drive from San Antonio all the way to Yuma. Was it San Antonio we were the night before? We were somewhere in the middle of Texas. It was San Antonio, yeah. It was like a 17-hour drive. And the check-in, from the time we left San Antonio at like 3 a.m., the check-in was 16 hours away with a 17-hour drive. So we were about 15 minutes late, but it ended up not being a big deal. We just gave us an arbitrary number for the check-in. But anyway, he was there running sound for us. He got us set up. It was a gig kind of like this. We had to do 2 one-hour sets. But he got us set up. He got us paid. He got people there with like 5 days notice. And then we were chit-chatting with him before the gig. He's like, so where are you guys tomorrow? I was like, oh, we're actually off tomorrow. I was like, well, where's the next gig? Oh, San Diego. And
he just was like, stay with us, stay with me and my grandma.
So yeah, he set us up, he got us paid, he gave us a place to stay for 2 days, not only the one night. He's like, stay at my place. It was Veterans Day. So this was the Sunday, and it was Veterans Day. He's like, tomorrow we were already having a cookout anyway. Hang out, we'll have a cookout. I'll show you guys the desert and stuff. So he hung out at his house. He took us out to the desert, took promo photos of us because he's a photographer too. Our keyboard player Rick at the time, that guy had a band, and Jose has a band, and Rick laid down some keyboard tracks for that guy's record, just because we had a whole day to kill. And then we had a cookout, and his grandma was a professional I don't know how it was.
She made tortillas.
Yeah, she's a professional tortilla maker. So like for like weddings and stuff, like she makes like 400 tortillas at a time. So she's hand making like fresh tortillas. We had a cookout. Everybody got very drunk. I talked to that one guy about Depeche Mode for about 45 minutes.
He's real self-conscious about this Depeche Mode conversation. He's like, he was sick of me. I'm like, he was into it.
One of the guys there was a DJ. He was a DJ and he was wearing a Joy Division shirt. So I just started talking to him about Darkwave and stuff. And talked to him about Depeche Mode for about 45 minutes.
Something kind of similar. I went on tour with him once. The shows were going up the East Coast, but I mean, when you're in a band and you're traveling and you're driving 15 hours or 10 hours or even 5 hours to get to a gig, and then you get there and sometimes there's 6 people there or whatever. When you hit these pockets where these people let you stay with them, there's this guy Mac in Rhode Island that I had to stay with him.
Oh, yeah.
And him and his wife and his mom took us in. We played the show. They took us in and we stayed there and we hung out there all the next day. And
They made their house like a giant freaking green room for us.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, they made this delicious Indian chickpea stuff for lunch the next day. I mean, like, and they're these wonderful oases for bands, you know, that are living off of like Cinnabon at the local Pilot, you know, when you stop for gas station food or whatever, and then you hit this pocket where someone's just like, sit down, my grandma makes tortillas, and you're just like, bless you, just tears streaming down your face, you know. Here's some beer, here's some good food. It's like, oh, thank you.
Here's the thing you can only get here.
Yeah. Mac's place in Rhode Island was awesome because Mac set up the show in Providence, and he came to our show in
Massachusetts.
Where were we in Massachusetts? He
He
came to the show in Worcester the night before the show he had set up for us. And he's like, where are you guys staying? I'm like, oh, well, I don't know, we haven't figured that out yet. We drove all the way from DC to Worcester. And he's like, well, follow me, just stay at my place, that way you can sleep in and get to the gig tomorrow. Great, okay, so we followed him to his place, we slept at his place, we played in Providence, we slept at his place again. Where did we play the next night? Did we sleep at his house a third time, or we had a day off? Like, we crashed at his house like 3 days. They fed us, he set up the show for us.
We went hiking.
We went hiking in the woods behind him. We showed him what Florida Man was all about.
John caught a snake with his bare hands in the woods behind his house.
We're hiking in the woods behind his house, and he's like, I never go back here. Like, this shit's weird. Like I don't know what we're gonna run into out here. And there was
There was some Wicker Man shit.
there was arrows sticking out of trees and shit. We're like, where are we? Like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know, man. I don't come out here. And then there was a snake going by. I'm like, check this out. You're about to see some Florida shit.
Baby snake.
He's like, what are you doing? Like, do you know what kind of snake that is? Like, no. You grab it close to the head, it can't bite you.
So, I heard you say while you were on stage something about being Tucson, your song Tucson, Arizona being #1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah, Sao Paulo, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the #1 streamed song for
Yeah.
us.
Alright.
So,
Alright,
like,
so it's your number
Yeah, yeah.
our #1, yeah.
Alright. Why do you think that's so popular?
South America, ska and
Ska.
reggae music is
Yeah.
really big right now. It's getting big, like basically from Mexico down.
Okay.
And I think like I've heard people hypothesize that it's like ska music, especially like the rhythm of it is kind of similar to banda music. Or like some like Mexican or Hispanic music, because it's the rhythmic offbeat, the balance. is
And that
slow.
song in particular, like that lead part and stuff, has a very
Yeah, kind of Latin feel.
It does, yeah.
But yeah, the story with that is that according to our, what was I going to say?
Analytics.
Analytics is the word. According to the analytics on Spotify, our #1 geographical location, even if you combine, they separate Cape Coral from Fort Myers. Combine those two together, we still have more monthly listeners in Sao Paulo. #2 is Fort Myers. #3 is some other place. Oh, it's Rio de Janeiro. #4 is the other one. What did I say? Fort Myers, Cape Coral. And then Gainesville, and then Philadelphia. So
Could that be one person?
no, it's individual monthly listeners. So they're counting the number of people, not the number of plays. When they say
Okay.
yeah, so we have more monthly listeners in Sao Paulo, and then #3. This was for the year 2019, anyway. So
Alright.
Maybe
maybe
what we're saying is we want someone to bankroll us to go on tour.
yeah, we're
Is that
looking
Central
for
America or South America?
that'd be South America.
Yeah, to go to South America.
We're gonna all have to learn how to speak Portuguese.
That's fine.
Well, at least one of us. One of us will have to.
You find someone, you find a translator.
Yeah, right.
It's easy enough.
Somebody to drive the van.
Yep.
Let's get roadies while we're at it.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? A sound engineer would really do me good. And I'll take my own trailer. I deserve it.
And we'll bring you guys to come
Get
to
too many
Compton.
hours.
So I can find you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, and Bandcamp.
Yep, Bandcamp.
And are there any other places?
Apple Music,
Yeah, Amazon. We're on all those.
Alright.
All the streaming places, anywhere you can stream music, basically.
Okay.
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about what kind of merchandise you have for sale right now and where I can get it.
Best place is physically at shows.
Okay.
We've got t-shirts, vinyl, our first record we have on vinyl. We've got CDs, stickers. You can also order through Bandcamp and we ship it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. There's
Alright.
like 5 different t-shirt designs. I
We've
think
shipped
there's
things to like
Tokyo, there's
Japan.
a bath on it.
Alright.
Oh, we got whoops, shipping stuff in Tokyo. Apparently it's $15 like to start. Like and then it just
okay.
goes up every ounce after that. So we got
Wow.
whooped.
Yeah.
The USPS just charges you for thinking about shipping something. You're just like, maybe I'll ship something, and all of a sudden you look at your debit card and you're already like minus $10.
Yeah, we got whooped shipping that.
Alright, so in booking, how do you get booked?
booking at thefreecoasters.com.
Alright, perfect. And any particular email?
Contact at thefreecoasters.com.
And your website?
Thefreecoasters.com.
Alright.
Or facebook.com/thefreecoasters.
Alright.
Well, that one gets updated a whole lot more often.
Alright, well, is there anything you guys have coming up or want to tell me about that I didn't ask you about?
The date at Point Bell, we should push that with our friends from New York. What is it, 27th?
Let me see.
We have a date at Point Bell someday in March, but she'll tell you the day. There's a band called Stop the Presses that are originally from like Hialeah, Miami area. They've moved to New York and they're coming down on tour.
This is a May issue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's true. What will we be pushing in May then?
Well, we're hoping to do a tour.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be booking
Sao
in May.
Paulo.
Yeah.
Be nice
We've
and
got,
May.
yeah, we've got like tour windows,
Yeah.
in the month of June, and May's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, May I'd have to be booking it now.
Well, you guys come up with anything, let me know.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you guys for waiting so
Thanks.
long for us.
No
Awesome,
problem.
guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. No, we appreciate it.